On this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I talk about the big lawsuit, and then he walks me back from the ledge. Join us. This is Industry Relations, a podcast that's at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective, with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another hat day at Industry Relations. This is your host, Notorious Rob Hahn, wearing the Costa hat. With me, as always, is my co-host, the fabulous Fab Robertson. Woo! Wearing the, I can't remember which hat this was. This was a cool
Spirited Man hat. Yes.
That's right. So, and I'm wearing blue, and you're wearing red. One of these things, it should be the other way, I think.
Yeah, what does it matter, Rob? Nothing matters anymore.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just going to get drunk.
It doesn't
matter. Who cares?
Especially since I've become a monarchist of late, and we'll have to have that conversation when I see you.
Hey, I'm looking for another industry anyway. So I mean, this is we're gonna just step off this here.
Oh, get out of here,
geez.
please. I mean, I've seen all your overestimation of doom and but
my overestimation. What are you talking about, dude?
Yeah. I told you I'm white pill. I'm a very positive, upbeat person.
Oh, look at that. You can tell I'm old. I've got a Tums in my pocket. I think I'll just, save that for later.
So, obviously, we're going to be talking about Moehrl versus NAR. And I'm positive that no one listening to our show is not aware of the issue, but just in case, the court, Judge Andrea Wood, Federal District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, has officially certified that as a class action lawsuit. And it will be, we're going to talk about that. That's a really interesting thing. Basically, it's consumers in the 20 covered MLSs since 2015 through 2020.
Yeah.
I estimate potential damages from that to be $195 billion, which obviously would bankrupt everybody involved. But we knew that. We knew this was a must-win type of lawsuit. And it's looking now like this will go to trial. Obviously, there's all kinds of stuff that needs to happen between now and actual trial, but it's certainly looking that way, especially since the Missouri case, which is very, very similar in every way, is going to trial in October. So, go ahead, Fab. Why are you so down? Why are you so dark?
I mean, it's I think it was either you or somebody that said. I mean, you read this memo that she's written. I mean, it reads to me like she's made up her mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I mean, what is all this? What are we doing here? We're just moving, shells across the damn, game. I mean, I don't even know the metaphor here. See, I'm that flustered. Yes, well, that's a good one. Yes.
Yeah. However, here's the thing. The fact is, she probably has made up her mind, and I thought that from her last motion, where she denied the motion to dismiss, but she doesn't get to make that decision. This is a jury trial.
Is it though? I mean,
it is. It's a jury trial. It is for sure a jury trial. But I mean, that is a fact.
I don't know if you're already going into this thing. I think it's going to be near impossible to get the jury to understand the nuances of our business a little bit. They're just going to think evil real estate, right? Because of whatever. And,
for sure.
I think I've been reading some of the comments from a lot of the articles out there, and one of them comes up, let's just, what does NAR just BK the place, right? They got a ton of assets there. I mean, and take the dollar stuff off the table and begin from there. I mean, so I don't, because if you go into a jury trial and you lose, bad situation. bad things happen, right?
Bad things
So
happen. Yes.
I think that should be on the table. I mean, there might be. I mean, reading one of the comments, a lot of the members might think it's not a really good use of the dues to go to trial here. I mean, it's looking that dour, right? So, what do you say to that?
I suppose I think that's a bit of an overreaction. I mean, and so here's the thing. Let's say NAR does declare bankruptcy, right? Even though it is clearly not bankrupt. All right. So are you doing a Chapter 7 liquidation or a Chapter 11 reorganization? Clearly, if you're looking to avoid this legal thunderbolt, you have to do a Chapter 7 liquidation, meaning, hey, we're bankrupt, we're out of business. We're just gonna shut the whole thing down, sell all our assets. The buildings in Chicago, the realtor logo. Okay, cool. You've done that, right? But that's NAR. All right, what happens next? All of the state and local associations they're independent of NAR. They're not chapters.
Well, you can't.
Are they also?
Well,
I mean, down?
I don't think you can join NAR without joining the rest of them, right? So they're all tied to some, right? Right.
Sure, you have the 3 agreement. Yeah. What I'm saying is like from a just matter of corporate law, every one of those are their own not-for-profit corporations, right? So all of them would have to declare, right, hey, we're out of business too. We're going to sell all our assets, right? There's no equity, right? So there's no shareholders who are going to take the money home. Okay. So now you have, let's say, $1 billion. Where's that money going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just a reorg to get the financial stuff off the table and then rise from the ashes in some way. But I mean,
but if you reorg, then you're still around to be sued.
Yeah, there's again, there's no good consequences that I see here, really.
No, there's no good consequences for NAR and the MLSs out of this. All right, so having said that, what I'm gonna play like psychiatrist counseling, and try and get you out of this this doom and death destruction thing. Well, so look, I mean, I guess you could. I don't think that's necessary. I don't.
Well, how the hell? I mean, okay, so then you go down the thing. The judge has made up their mind. Jury, it's going to be very difficult for a jury to understand. I mean, already, they have this thing. I mean, they're taking advice. The judge is taking advice from somebody who's basically, comparing this to buying a house to buying, plane tickets and buying stock on the internet, right? I mean, if you're, if that's the case, it's, what it's like? It's like, you ever watch those things on C-SPAN when the senators or the representatives are asking like Mark Zuckerberg, like, is TikTok on the internet? Or, just this kind of fucking shit. I mean, you're never going to fucking, it's just, you can tell, what do we say always on this podcast? You can tell a lot of how smart somebody is by the questions that they ask, right? So I can read this thing, right. And if they're not knowing the nuance of that, how do you get somebody that's asking a question, is TikTok on the internet? How do you get them to understand, how do you have like a nuanced argument with somebody like that? They're going to lose. They're going to lose.
We talked about this, man. Yeah, they're going to lose.
Well, maybe I'm just late to the fucking party here. I don't know.
Right. You had like 90% of the industry. What was it, like just a year ago when we were at Las Vegas? Remember? We're doing that panel, and then I said, hey, so how many people in this audience? And these are all your realtor junkies, right? These are the people who are really involved with the Las Vegas realtor stuff. What would you say? Like 10% of the hands went up? I mean, so look, in a way, the good news is now hopefully more people are aware of this, right? More of the membership, more of the realtors, more of the leadership, more brokers are aware. Oh shit, there's a big class action lawsuit. So I think awareness is a positive, right? But yeah, you're always going to lose at trial. I've always said that, right? It doesn't mean you're going to lose an appeal. There's potentially an appeal here.
If they tried to appeal this with the other suit, and that was kicked back them.
But the other suit wasn't about this. The other suit was about PLS, and the other
Okay.
suit was about other issues. You know, but yeah, I mean, yeah, what it doesn't look good. All I'm saying is you might win an appeal.
The party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night.
God damn, Greg.
The party's over.
And tomorrow, say goodbye.
I'm done. Sorry.
All right, are you done? All right, look, the party's not over, because here's the thing: what we can't lose sight of is whatever happens to this lawsuit, NAR brokers, the commission, blah blah blah. Fact is, we're in the housing industry. It's a necessary good. People are still going to buy houses. People are still going to sell houses. 92% of them are still going to want someone to help them with it, right? However people get paid, they're going to get paid, right? I mean, it's not the party's over, right? The
It's a
party's
different
just different.
party. It's a different party. It's
a different party.
It's a picnic. It's not disco.
It's not disco anymore.
It's a bar camp. Yeah, it's RE bar camp. That's what we're going back to RE bar camp.
Yeah, or like I said, I mean, it's a different type of party, with different players and different ways of partying. But fundamentally, it's not like the industry's going away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so play out this for me. So yeah. I guess maybe the bankruptcy is too early from what you're saying. So they go to trial, yes. They lose. Now they owe $195 billion, yes. And everybody else does too, right? The Anywheres.
Yes. No. NAR and the 4 corporate defendants will owe.
Aren't the 20 MLSs also part of that whole ballgame?
No,
okay, perfect.
They are not.
So
nope,
NAR now, right? So then they lose it. Then they can appeal that, right? So we got some time here.
Correct.
All right. So how long do you think that appeal is going to take?
I think it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks.
All right. Now I'm feeling better. No, this is better. Okay.
See, I told you.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming, Rob. Yeah. Keep it coming.
Okay. So let's say you lose on appeal.
Let me get my song queued up again.
You appeal to Supreme Court. I'm just saying it's a federal case. So there's a district court, then you go to the Court of Appeals, and then potentially there's a appeal to Supreme Court, right? And maybe the Supreme Court grants cert, right? I don't know if they will or not, but you just don't know when it comes to Supreme Courts. Maybe they look at it and say, hey, there's this aspect of antitrust law that we want to address. This is the case to do it in. So we do that. Or maybe between losing the trial and then the appeal, right? You have every congressman in America being besieged by, realtor members who are like, hey, you need to do something about this. The entire housing industry is about to go belly up, blah, blah, blah. So maybe Congress passes some legislation, who knows, right? We don't know what's going to happen, right? But we're not talking, oh my God, next month, like it's all over.
We have years. That's great.
We have years.
Okay.
We have years. Okay.
We have
not
years.
Decades, but we have years. We have years. So, feeling better? All right. Put that song away.
It's done. It's over with.
Next.
It's a beautiful day.
It's not quite that. I mean, it's still really bad. It's still really, really bad. Okay. It's still real bad. So let's talk about a couple of things well, first of all, let's talk high level commission lawsuits in general, right? There's this idea that I think people have that come November, when the Burnett case is decided, that's it. Commissions are done. We should all find something else to do. No, obviously it will be appealed, right? The enforcement, the injunction will be stayed. So nothing's really going to change for the agent on the ground anytime soon. All right. So what's the problem? I think you and I recorded a podcast on this. I know I wrote about this on Notorious. The real problem is copycat lawsuits. Right. And I'm in the process of finishing up my sort of impact of this lawsuit and other things. At this point, I feel like maybe the most important thing that you and I can do with this podcast, given who our listeners are, is like without any sort of backtrack. Like y'all need to do prep. Y'all need to do contingency plans today. You need to do this right now, right? Because the average realtor is not listening to this show, right? Our show is listened to mostly by C-suite, association leaders, leaders of brokerages. You guys need to be having conversations right the fuck now about what are we doing with respect to copycat lawsuits.
And so why don't you describe what you mean by copycats? These are individuals, right?
These are basically, just think about what's called the plaintiffs bar, right? At the very tippy top are companies like Cohen Milstein, law firms like that, they're the lawyers behind this Moehrl lawsuit. These are the multi-billion big law firms, lots of money, humongous amounts of experience, and they go after the biggest of the big targets, right? NAR, American Express, Google, Yahoo, big
Tobacco.
pharma, oil companies. They're going after big tobacco. They're going after those types of companies, doing super complex litigation, multiple years. You have to invest tens of millions of dollars into the lawsuit because you have to get the experts, you have to get witness, you have to do all this shit, right? That's the very tippy top. At the very bottom are your sort of ambulance chasers. You know what I mean? Like the whole, got into a car accident, call me.
Right.
It's the Better Call Saul, right? At the very bottom, you have those. And then in the middle, you might have sort of local and regional law firms that aren't Cohen Milstein, but they're going to do maybe a class action, personal injury type thing. Maybe there's a local factory fire and, they'll bring lawsuits for workers' comp on behalf of all the workers. So it's going to be those guys. I'm saying those guys are going to be looking at this going, oh, there's money to be made here. So Cohen Milstein will sue NAR and Realogy and Remax, right? I have a 5-person firm in Las Vegas, let's say, right? I'm going to sue GLVAR, the local MLS, and let's say 5 of the largest local brokerages, right? On behalf of whatever, the sellers in Las Vegas. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what you have to be afraid of.
I mean, right? now what you're going to, this is really just, I'm being facetious here, but now vendors are going to pivot. They're going to do lead generation services of just like you see on talcum powder and methylcimelione. Whatever, I can't pronounce that. They're basically, commercials on cable channels that say, have you been, exposed to asbestos? I can just hear it now. Have you sold a home between 2015 and 2022 for more than $56,000? You get your money now. Call 1-800. You may be open to call.
Call.
And we just sell those leads to lawyers in certain areas. I mean, it's genius. Jesus.
Well, we won't be selling. They already.
Oh, it's got its own vendor community. Yeah, that industry. Yeah,
that industry.
Yeah, there's a Greg Robertson and a Rob Hahn in that industry right now, doing a podcast, going, "This is great.
That's right.
This is gonna be the best thing ever."
Hey guys, billions of dollars in lawsuit earnings. I mean, of course it's happening right now, right? And my point is, do not wait till next year to do this, right? Don't wait for these cases to be decided. You need to start thinking about what you need to do right now.
Okay, but what do they do, Rob?
That this case gets decided.
Tell us, oh wise one.
Well, dude, I mean, come on, man. That's like fucking practice of law, right? So let's preface. This is entertainment and education. Please consult your own lawyers. Correct. Consult your own blah blah blah. But I do consulting, for a living, or I did for a very long time. You're a very smart guy. Here's my take. You need to get with your board of directors and your general counsel and figure out what your legal budget is.
And you need to fucking quadruple it. Oh, man.
Yeah. Right. Or at least have some conversations with, let's say, your general counsel or your whoever. Say, hey, if this copycat lawsuit happens, what's our exposure?
Mitch,
And
start
what
hiring.
does a
Mitch,
legal
start
budget need to
hiring
be?
now, Mitch.
Exactly. At a minimum, you need to have the conversation today with your leadership,
Yeah.
with your general counsel. Okay? That at a minimum, you need to at least know, what am I looking at here, right? You need to at least get a grasp on what is your exposure, right? It doesn't mean you're going to lose. It just means, okay, so if we lose to a similar copycat trial, what's our exposure, right? Again, anywhere, Keller Williams, Home Service America, Remax, those guys have already done that calculation. I'm pretty sure if you're a large regional broker with 150 agents, you have never, ever calculated your exposure, right? I would go calculate that exposure.
Yeah.
Right? That's the second thing. There's some other things that I guess we got to talk about.
Side gigs. Everybody's got to get a side gig.
I feel real like, no, you probably need to start thinking about preventing further liability.
Oh yeah. Well, they can't, but again, they can't do that now as long as NAR is making the rules. If they're NAR affiliated, you know, they can't do that. Right. So it's
I don't know. And this is a question maybe for your attorneys, right? Are there things you can do as a listing agent, as a buyer agent today, right? So for example, we have buyer agents going out. Now the recommendation for the past 4 years, by the way, has been get an exclusive buyer agency agreement. At this point, I'm like, if you're not doing that, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, like, right? So maybe, is there language you could include in there? Is there something that you could include in there when, as an agent, you're talking to the buyer and say, listen, here's the situation. There's some lost stuff going on. I just want to make sure that I'm being very clear with you. Hey, Mr. Owner,
so let's pull that thread a little while,
with you on what's
Rob,
happening,
because
right?
You know, if I don't know who's read Rob's post on this. I think it's VIP, right? Go get a VIP subscription, for Christ's sake. Go to notoriousvip.com and buy one.
Yeah. Only if you're in leadership, all right? I really don't think
everybody should go get it. Go get a readership and like buy my book, The Art of the CMA. It's going on sale right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's pull on that thread, because you know, you call me out. I mean, not really, whatever, but by talking about, hey, I've said, well, Northwest Council has made these changes and it really hasn't affected much. They kind of talk about that in the right. You know, it's very interesting. Like, it's not like they're listening to our podcast, but like, you know, your steering issue came up. The fact that I pointed at Northwest MLS came up. So I think we're hitting on the right things here, and it's nice to see some validation on that. But they're saying, you know what, that doesn't mean dick.
Yeah.
Just because because it's still, the cabal is so strong, right? That they, you know, they're just doing that. So I'm just wondering, do you think that they're going to put the same, you know, if they take a look at these buyer exclusive agreements, they're just going to say, well, that's a Band-Aid too. It's the inertia, the cabal's so strong. That's not going to change things. We have to make it, you know, de facto, it's only this, or else it's not going to happen. We have to put a cap on things, because I just smell that. I smell that in that whole piece there.
It's really hard to say, you know, because first of all, let's step back for a second. That Northwest MLS thing was what I found to be the most surprising, right? That Judge Woods here, again, didn't even go into it that deeply. She just kind of dismissed it out of hand, you know? Now, there's a couple explanations. One is the possibility of she did that because this particular motion was about class action. And she just felt like
that's a jury thing to decide.
Whatever Northwest MLS thing wasn't relevant to class action, right? That's a jury thing. And she did mention, look, present to the jury. What I found kind of surprising, again, there was a lot of this was like picking up the tone of the opinion as opposed to what she actually said. It's sort of how she said it, right? So the fact that she called that Northwest MLS change a quote modest modification, I was like, that's not a good sign. You know what I mean? Like, because she could have just said, these big changes that Northwest MLS made don't impact class action. Tell it to the jury, right? It could have been written in
the fact that in the agreement, endless agreement, the seller has the opportunity of putting in exactly what they want
Yeah.
is a modest modification. Or I mean, it's just yeah.
It's
Again,
a modest modification. Correct. It's
so,
99.75% of sellers continue to offer compensation to the buyer, and 95% of those offers are rates exceeding 2%. So it's almost like she would just went, this is one of these like fig leaves. It doesn't make any change. It makes no difference. You're just trying to somehow wriggle out of this. I'm not going to let you. These are modest modifications. Tell it to the jury, right? I mean, I think that's the tone, right? Now, that's a little different than, I think that's potentially different than an agent getting an agreement with the buyer that spells out.
I mean, we've talked about this. It is a little problematic because what happens is the seller's agent presents this form to them. Then, the seller is going to go, what do you think I should put? Right. And then the seller's agent's going to go, well, I mean, if, you want to make it attractive for people to help sell help sell it for us. Right. So, I would, put whatever, right? I mean, it's a little problematic, for sure.
My opinion, though, is if I'm a broker, okay, so you know what? Let me do it this way. Let's pretend that I'm a real estate broker, right? Let's say I have a large regional brokerage, 5 offices.
Am I the agent in this point? Or am I the seller?
No, I don't know who you are yet, okay? I'm just saying what I would do immediately is I would go and institute training and have official policy in my brokerage to tell the agents at no point are you to say anything to the seller about if you don't offer this level of compensation, the buyer will not buy it.
Right.
Okay, the reason for that is because the judge in the Moehrl case specifically called out the corporate defendants and their own in-house training on how to deal with commissions. And you and I have talked about this for years now, right? That the standard practice in the industry is when a seller says, well, okay, you're great and I want to hire you, but boy, 6% seems like an awful high commission rate, right? The way that we've been training agents for 40 years is you say, hey, listen, I charge 2% and I'm happy to blah, blah, blah. But you know what? If you don't offer out at least 2.5%, 3% to the other agent, they're never going to show this house to anybody. Right? That's the way that the agent's been trained. That was brought up by this judge in this decision. Therefore, going forward as a broker, as a franchise, what I would be doing is at no point are you supposed to say that. If you do, I'm on the hook. And this is important because one of the questions I got as soon as I published my tweets was, wait, does this mean, as an agent, I'm screwed? Is the broker going to come and claw back the commissions they paid us? I'm like, no, there's no grounds for doing that, right? Whatever you paid the agent over the last 10 years is gone, okay? But the agent is not going to get sued in that. You are, the broker is. Just like Realogy is getting sued, Realogy's agents aren't.
Right.
They're not defendants in the lawsuit. So if I'm that local broker, man, I got to be like, oh.
So that's part of the prepping. That's part of the prepping we're talking about. Is that,
That's part of the prepping. You better start instituting that now. So at a minimum, if it turns out that somebody sues you and says, hey, your agent, Susie, told me that if I don't pay at least 5%, then, no one's going to show my house. They're like, well, here's my training manual, my corporate training manual that specifically says, you are not to say anything about buyer agent steering, right? If this is a violation, then you, Susie, will owe us money.
Yeah, I think
you're gonna need
to me,
like that,
it almost comes down to it's so important that, it's like the Miranda rights, right? So it's like I have a card in my wallet, in my purse.
Yeah.
It's got the legal, the legal thing that I can say. Oh, great question. Hold on a second. Let me pull out this card, and I'm just going to go verbatim. Yeah. Well, great question, but I am not allowed to blah, 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 blah. Well, what about, let me say it again. Well, blah, 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 blah. I mean, just go back to that and go back to that again. That's the training. They just got to, here, laminate those fucking cards, distribute them, and make sure they're on their keychains or everywhere else that they can kind of reference them right away, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know what? Honestly, what you raised, though, it makes me think about this. I would probably start putting in pretty strong indemnification clauses into my independent contractor agreements. Here's why I bring that up. You're right. So I'm going to print out this laminated card and I'm going to train my agents, right? Okay, we've been training agents for 30 years on fair housing. And then we saw Long Island, that Long Island investigation when fucking agents are getting caught on camera making racial steering commentary, despite the fact that they've been trained on fair housing, right? They've been told over and over, you can't do this. I'm like, yo, I want indemnification clauses that if you do that and I get sued, you're going to indemnify
so brokers,
me. So I can, to your point,
that's part of the agreement with the brokers have with their agents, right? Wow.
I would put that into my agency 1099 agreements. Here's my training. If you fuck up and you do something illegal, you do something against our company policy, and I get sued, you're gonna indemnify me.
Yeah,
I would absolutely put that
interesting
in place right now. Right. Okay. Please talk to your actual attorney. I am not your lawyer, right? But I would do that. So yeah, there are some things that you need to do right away, and I think the biggest impact is if you're a local association, local MLS,
right,
you have some things you got to do. Right. Most on the copycat lawsuit side, you need to look at the policy, right? But this brings us back to one of our topics that we've talked about in the past. If you're a realtor MLS, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Right. You might want to start having some conversation about not being a realtor MLS anymore.
Well, I mean, I think that's been a topic in circles around there that nobody wants to really say, right? So
that's right. Not really, but you know what? At this point, you got to. You got to.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. You got to. Right. You got to. If you're a brokerage, you need to be having a copycat lawsuit conversation with your lawyers and figure out how you can protect yourself going forward. Because here's my take on that. As a brokerage, chances are you're going to be liable for whatever happened in the past, 2015 to 2020. Okay. You don't want to pile on liability. Right? So maybe at least start thinking about what do we have to do from this point going forward to minimize liability.
Well, let's go back to I get buyer's agency agreement. Sure. I get training your agents when they're talking to their sellers, right?
Sellers.
But going back to it's a tough situation like the Northwest MLS when they have it in the listing agreement. I mean, it's going to be a natural thing for a seller to ask their agent some advice on what should I put here? And is that when I bring out the laminated card and say exactly that? Yeah.
I think so.
Because
I think so.
That's a tough thing to,
look, it's no different.
So if I play that through, let's say they say, well, they go, okay, it's $1 million. I think if somebody brings it over, I'll give them $10,000. Let's just say that the seller says, I'm going to put down $10,000. Okay, fine. So then I guess what happens later on, hold on. So what happens later on, somebody comes to the house, has a buyer, the buyer says, and we want to make an offer, but just so you know, I have an agreement with them that they're going to pay me 2.5% of the sale price. Are you willing to accept that as part of the terms of this deal? Right. And basically, I guess then the seller's agent has to go to the seller and say, listen, we have a buyer, but he's agreed to with his client that it's going to be 2.5%. You'd put in here only 10,000. He's all cash. Pretty good deal. Do you want to do that, or do you want to stand hold at the 10,000? Right. That's how that would go down. And I would. So the buyer or the seller at that point could go, hell no, that's too much. Only $10,000. I think at that point you're going to probably see the market then decide. But I got to believe now. Is the seller going to be? That's a lot less liability when the seller's agent says, "Hey man, a bird in the hand." Right? Yeah. This is more than you. This is more than we've gotten before, and it's a cash offer. I'd take it. He can give advice at that point, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no question because that's negotiation.
Okay.
Right. There's no liability.
Right. Okay, well, I'm feeling better. Here, there's a ways forward. There are ways forward here. Yeah.
Absolutely, there's ways forward. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying this is not the end of the world. This is not disaster. The problem is like, it's not. It's just the problem going forward. The biggest problem really. Well,
it's two. I mean, there's two problems. If they lose, there's going to be this $195 billion. But
yeah, but that's still only 5 organizations. So NAR is bankrupt, Realogy is bankrupt, Home
you
Services.
You say that like it's like only five. Only the largest traders organization in the world goes bankrupt. But
Yeah, or they do a structured agreement. Okay, fine, we're gonna owe you $150 billion over 10 years, $15 billion a year, and we'll blah blah blah. I mean, that's. But my point is, like, let's say Realogy goes bankrupt, right? Okay. All of the agents just go somewhere else.
Right. Well, I mean, they don't have to. I mean, they got to reorganize themselves, right? And come out, if they go.
I think much more like, because there's no real reorg here. Let's say Realogy just goes, yeah, there's no way. We can't pay $40 billion in damages, right? What ends up happening at that point is the creditor here are the law firms.
So it's a settlement.
These plaintiffs, right? They will go, cool. No, it's not even a settlement. Right. We'll take the company. So then Realogy
nobody
gets
wants
owned
that though. They want money. They're going to settle.
Nobody wants that.
No, it's 10 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar. I don't know, whatever it turns out to be, right?
But yeah, whatever ends up being, but but that'll be afterwards, and then so that there's whole processes and whatever is left up. My point is, even if those 5 companies and organizations completely disappear off the face of the earth, right? All their agents just go somewhere else. All the members, we figure something out.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm not worried. And again, that's 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And all of those companies, organizations have CEOs. They all have boards of directors. They all have very smart people. I'm assuming that they're doing contingency planning. You know what I'm saying? If not, you know what? That like this entire episode for me is about do some contingency planning. Have those meetings today. Hey, if this worst case scenario happens, what's our way out? What do we have? If you're if you're Remax, if you're Realogy, if you're these publicly traded big ass companies, right? Maybe you make a call to Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and say, hey, listen, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but should something like this come down the pike, will you buy this? Do you know what I'm saying? Or will you give us a loan of whatever so we could pay that? Whatever, just at least start doing those things today, right? If you haven't done so already. My view is, if you are someone listening to us right now, and you're more a local association CEO, you're more of a local MLS board member, you're more of a local broker of some size, right? Like, I honestly don't think it's something you have to worry about if you have 2 agents and you do 20 transactions a year. Right. I just don't. You know what I mean? Because there's not enough money there for some lawyer to want to attack you. But if you're 150 agents and you've, you know what I mean? Like, now you need to have, my point is, you need to do the things that the big guys need to do. You need to do that too, right? Because this notion that, well, this 195 billion will never happen, it's the problem isn't that Cohen Milstein and these guys are going to come after you. That's not the problem. The problem is your local ambulance chaser is going to come after you. Right.
So, okay, let's go the other direction. I mean, let's sure. I think we can look to just recent history. NAR, fought back on this DOJ agreement and, won, right? I know there's probably an appeal, or did they pass that point where maybe we were past that, but I mean.
No, the appeal.
Okay,
DOJ just filed the appeal.
But they're pretty scrappy. Let's just say that, right? So maybe we get a jury that understands the nuances of this, right? Maybe they get out of this.
Sure.
And people do recognize that.
Sure, they could win.
Selling a house is not selling a plane ticket, or not, booking a hotel room, and that what Northwest MLS did is not some sort of but a bigger things, and the industry is moving in those directions. Maybe they win. right?
Sure.
Okay, so then
maybe they.
So
win.
then I guess it would be an appeal
right.
on the Plainton side, though, right? Yeah. So that. Okay.
That's right. The plaintiff's appeal.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So let me just let this wash over me in the sound bath that Rob Hahn has given me, right? So number one, there's things we can do, right? I mean, if everybody should be doing these buyer exclusive contracts just tomorrow, right? Number two, even if the appeal, if NAR appeals and it goes to trial, there are ways forward. There's going to be an appeal, and that's going to take years to have happen. So this is not something that's going to like change in the next year or two, right? Right. So 2 years maybe, right?
Hold on. The policy, the law thing necessarily isn't going to change in the next year or two,
right?
Because of appeals. It doesn't mean that the entire environment doesn't change radically.
Because we see year. Everybody sees the
because of the copycat lawsuits.
So
right, and really the deadline is this. The deadline, I think, in my mind, is November, December of this year.
It's because
the reason for it is Burnett is going,
and we
to
can
trial
kind of we can get a sense of
in
what
October,
the
bingo. And it's kind of how you began this podcast with playing fucking Willie Nelson. And because if it's a jury trial, I'm sorry, and I'm kind of in agreement, unless somehow NAR managed to get a jury of 4 realtors and 2 random, citizens, it won't be. It's going to be 6 random retirees.
They're not going to let a realtor on that.
Just think about people who serve on juries.
Sure, anyway, right?
They're never going to let a realtor on that jury.
They might have a tough time pulling somebody who hasn't once been a realtor.
And then, like you can almost like imagine the jury voir dire, right? Have you ever sold a home? Yeah, I sold one 3 years ago. Are you a realtor? No. Do you?
Yes.
Is any of your relatives a realtor?
Yeah,
no.
Who doesn't have a relative that's a realtor, man? Come on. Out.
My cousin's a realtor. Do you like your cousin? Yeah, I like my cousin. You're out. I mean, we can see it. So you have a jury of your peers who don't understand jack shit, and all they're going to be told is they're going to be shown this video.
Josh Altman and millionaire real estate agents, right?
Clients.
Oh God!
They're gonna start, showing them. Hey, here's a postcard from this Coldwell Banker agent saying, "Hey, if you bring me a buyer, I will pay you $15,000 buyer agent bonus." Right? We're gonna have the Keller Williams training manual.
There's gonna be videos showing you how to do that. How do you overcome that objection to listing presentation?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then, it's a fucking trial. You're going to call Tom Ferry to the stand and go, hey, Tom, in the last 10 years, when you coach people how to overcome commissioner objections, what's your script? Tom doesn't want to go to jail. Tom's going to, what I tell them is, if you don't offer enough in compensation, the buyer agent's not going to show you.
Yeah, I don't think he said that.
I mean,
yeah.
So you're going to lose. Chances are you're going to lose a trial. But, so my issue is, even if when that happens, the issue will be the plaintiff's bar. And to your point, the vendors in that industry, like a Greg Roberts, like, hey, I got this data. Here are the association of brokers to sue.
They say that all.
That's the issue. So prep. But here's what's bizarre to me, Greg, and this is what maybe I could just ask you. I've been writing about this issue since March of 2019. Okay, 4 years now. You and I have been talking about this issue since March of 2019. What I don't like, and yet last year we could go to a large realtor association event and ask the audience how many people are even aware of this lawsuit, and the majority of hands do not go up. So the question is, do you think now, because of this,
I think they're becoming more awake. I forwarded you last night. I was on TikTok, and this random agent comes up and talks about you and this lawsuit. I'm like, oh my God, Rob's like TikTok famous here. So if it's spreading down to that type of level, I think there's hope for that. I mean, but here's the thing. It's like, everything, I relate down to kind of software. It's like, I can see the mock-ups. I can kind of go through the Figma live demos or, mock demos and everything. But until the thing is live and I have it and I'm using it every day, it's like, it's not real. And
It's not real.
I'm not giving the best feedback because it's not there. Right. I just went through this with our latest enhancement, and it's like, oh, and then I found 3 things right away. Like, oh, you know what? You need to do this, this, and this, but it was there kind of in front of me, but until it's real, you don't know. Right. So I think there's a little bit of that going on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, which is why I'm saying if you're a rank and file agent, you're a small broker, this is just not something for you to worry about, honestly. You should be worrying about providing client service, getting listings. The only change, like I said, I would make is going forward, I just wouldn't take the chance of saying to a seller, if you don't offer enough compensation,
there needs to be a script that has been legally, like a Miranda statement.
Correct. Yeah. I just wouldn't do it, right? And this isn't a matter of like the association, the MLS trying to pressure you into. I'm saying as a broker, why do I want that? Why do I want that liability, right? So now I can get sued for not only what I've done from 2015 to 2020, now I'm going to get sued for what I did in 2023. I don't want that. So I would make that change.
To me, it's like now. If you can get it like into the, if you start signing these buyer agreements, right, that's part of this puzzle. And then you can just begin to say to the buyers, put down whatever you want. Buyers are going to come at us and they're going to have whatever, they're going to have an offer and we'll decide it. But it doesn't matter. Put down whatever you want. Right. Because you as a seller agents are just going to know that people coming to you are going to have some sort of agreement or some sort of expectation. You're just going to present that to the seller and say blah, blah. So it's like, to me, it's like, if we can get it to the point where everybody understands, okay, the buyer's going to put whatever they want there, but that's, we're going to try through our customer service and everything else to get something that we think we deserve to do this and prove it to them. We'll see if if finally, if they realize that, oh shit, I mean, I had to turn down two buyers because I didn't want to pay their commission. Right. Well, maybe the third buyer, I should consider it because it's hard getting buyers. Or, whatever kind of thing is that they're going to, the market's going to make that shift. Right. But I mean, that's probably where we want to get to.
But it'll be left up to that individual situation.
Right.
And the seller gets to make that
and
call,
then,
right?
Yeah. And then maybe that does, put some more, compression on the commission, right? It goes a little bit lower. Maybe it doesn't, right? Maybe it doesn't. I mean, in a cyclical market, if this goes back to a buyer's market, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So there's a couple of things. One is, even in that environment, and I think we did this at the Las Vegas panel too, and then we talked about it on the podcast, I think buyer commissions are probably going away. Right? Simply because as a buyer, I have zero incentive to incentivize my rep to get the home price high.
Well, I mean, you're talking about basically what column that money goes to, right? So
I'm saying is like, I want to pay my buyer agent, right? Like, I'm not going to buy a house without using an agent. I'm saying I would just pay them by the hour or pay them for, hey, help me buy this house. I'll pay you $5,000. Do you know what I mean? I can't imagine where I would say, I would pay you based on the price of the thing.
I think there's going to be bands, right? I think there's going to be a full service band. There's going to be, a band where it's like that kind of thing. I don't think it goes away. I mean, again, I want somebody to be,
it doesn't go
they're
away
on the hook and it's going to be worth it for them to get something for me. I'm not sure if.
Right. So what I'm saying is, well, we talked about it, right? Of course it's going to exist because consumers are stupid and they're slow, right? I'm just saying. But when you think about it, the rational ones, especially some of the younger people, they'll be like, wait a minute, I'm happy to pay you, right, to help me buy this house. But I'm not going to pay you based on the price of the house. I'll pay you based on the price of the savings, right? So it might be, I'll pay $50 an hour and then 10% of every dollar that you get below list price, something like that, right? But they're not going to say, I'm going to pay you based on the price of the
I think some will, but I mean,
I just don't see that happening. Some will,
they're not morons. I mean, time is money, right? So, if they think that they're going to get better service by doing it quote unquote traditionally, right? Then people are going to do that, right?
Potentially. And so that would be something to at least think about starting this year to implement into next year. Because again, I'm saying the deadline is Burnett case is going to trial. We will have a decision probably by November, December. So again, if you're an agent and you're listening to this doesn't impact you today, right now, in my mind, in any way, shape, or form. Okay. This is really about local association leaders, local MLS leaders, local brokerage leaders, right? You guys need to just understand that chances are copycat lawsuits are headed your way, and you need to start doing the types of things that NAR, Realogy, Remax have had to do. Right. Now, there's so much more to go into this, and we're already kind of at an hour. We should probably do another show, just talk about kind of the other impact, right? I would like to say one thing though, and this is going to go in the post that I'm finishing up, because we know that NAR listens to this show a little bit. Okay? I don't know how many MLS CEOs or association leaders you've spoken to since this news broke, but I've spoken to quite a few. And I've asked them, what has NAR told you? Okay. And NAR to date has just been sending out the standard happy talk, cheerleading, rah shit. Disappointed in the court, but we're right on the facts, right on the law. We are going to prevail ultimately. That's the only thing they've been sending out. Here's my appeal to NAR. Okay, it's not because I hate you. It's not because it's my appeal. You guys need to actually do something more for the leadership. Not to the general membership. I get it. To the general membership, send out the happy cheerleader email. Cool. But to like the CEOs of local associations and local MLSs, to at least like say the president, the executive committees of local MLSs, and y'all need to have some special conference, special meeting, special closed door session at mid-year that's coming up. Y'all need to do something and get some of your lawyers like who are actually doing this case and talk about contingency.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when you think about how many tiny little MLSs that are out there, how many tiny associates are out there, those associates, those MLSs simply do not have the money to defend the nuisance lawsuits. Right. So I'm like, if we're talking about consolidation, like this, one of the impacts that I'm writing up, to me, one of the impacts of this will be we're going to have some real consolidation happening.
Yeah.
Because if you have 200 members and you're in the middle of fucking Kansas somewhere and some local ambulance chaser comes and sues you for $50,000, yeah, not even a lot of money, 50 grand.
Well, what do we talk about? I mean, the stats are pretty clear on this. Of the 523 MLSs out there, 400 of those MLSs have less than 400 members apiece.
That's right. And, up to this point, they've been like, well, we provide amazing customer service and we're local, blah, blah. That's great. Do you have the legal budget? Do you have a lawyer? If not, you're going to need to team up. They
don't have somebody who handles IDX contracts, much less a fucking general counsel.
Right. So my point is, if you're NAR, at a minimum, you need to let the leadership aware of the true scale of what's going on. The leadership doesn't need happy talk. They don't need cheerleading rah-rah. They need the truth from you guys so they can start doing some prep work. To me, like that's to me what the NAR should be doing. And if NAR is not going to take the lead, you know what? Your state association leader, do it. I've heard that same.
I've heard that.
Again,
I've heard that same feedback, and I guess the way you got to think about that is like NAR. I mean, it's almost like it's a game of poker. You gotta keep that poker face on, and that's all NAR wants to do, right? So
sure. But but you're doing a disservice to the leadership is my point, right? Because I talked to one MLS CEO, right? And he was like, yeah, no, this is the only thing I heard from NAR. And he on his own are calling his outside counsel. He on his own are calling his specialists and experts like, hey, we need to do some contingency plan. We need to do something.
Right.
Not because he's big enough. My concern is the hundreds, thousands of the smaller guys who have no idea this is happening. They're not being told jack shit. And when the shit hits, they're not going to be ready in the least bit. Yeah. And I'm like, that's just wrong. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just wrong. Right? So that's my appeal. Please, NAR, like do that special session, do the special webinar. I get it. You need to have the poker face. You need to have confidence. Cool. But at least the C-suites, the presidents, like they need to be aware of what the fuck is going on. And it's not from random ass guys like you and me on the internet. It needs to be from like the actual lawyers that are prosecuting the Moehrl case and the Sitzer case. It needs to be from the real top experts who are really dealing with state of day. And they need to be the ones briefing the leadership of the locals on what's happening.
And I think, I mean, you know, I've been kind of
it's not.
tongue in cheek here with the song and everything else. I mean, I'm, you know, I'm not, you know, doom and gloom about, you know, organized real estate in general. And I don't know if I have Stockholm syndrome, right? Where I've been like caught up in this thing for so long that I think obviously the industry needs to improve, right? And get better. And I think a lot of this is for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, what I'm doom and gloom about is the nuances of what we do. And if we're going to be able to communicate that to a jury of our peers, or what even that means anymore. Right. So hold on. So,
okay. Then play that music.
That's
play
what,
that music.
And so that's what I'm melancholy about a bit, right? That we're not going to get that opportunity, and things will kind of fall apart from there. But I mean, you know, you brought me back to like, I mean, there's services we can provide. Maybe the ways that the way we compensate it or change, but the industry will adapt and adjust, and we'll go forward. And hopefully, maybe new models, Rob, new models might be in the works here that can help things out.
Yeah, in fact, so I can't not mention this because it's going to come out in the next post. Is one of the interesting things about this opinion is the judge specifically exempts auctions. Yeah. And as you know, I've been working on an auction-related thing, which
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Material to this,
yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll talk about that and some other new models, some other new things that I know friends of mine are working on, which could really help in this post Moehrl world, right? Yeah. But we'll do that, you know, in a separate show. But on this one, and look, man, I feel good because I feel like I walked you back from the edge. Right? Walked you back from the ledge. You don't need to be playing sad Willie Nelson songs. Like, you know, like I'm being realistic about it. Like, look, I'm not saying everything is sunshine and roses either. No, there's some real fucking problems headed this way. I'm just saying it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the industry. It's not the end of organized real estate. It's just
fasten your seatbelts.
You know, things are gonna change. Correct. But at the same time, if you're in leadership positions and you haven't been woken up to this, like, I don't know what to tell you. Get woke, man. Like, wake the fuck up. Like, this has been going on for years, and the signs are really clear to see, and you need to start doing things now for a future thing, right? That's the message. So, all
right.
Let's leave it there, brother. And then
I'm going to do a quick shout out to Sarah
super interesting.
over at, Sarah sent me a message saying that listening to us is the highlight of her days during all this stuff. So thanks, Sarah, for sending the email, and we'll talk again.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.